Alright, hello everybody, my name is Interjection and welcome to a best of 3 series played between Ranethar and myself for the Emerald bracket of the Chronicle Community Cup. Now, because it's a best of 3, that does mean you have to get 2 victories overall to progress to the next round, and in this particular tournament, each of those wins has to be with a separate legend. And because of that reason, I do open up with Ariane. I think she has a lot of very good matchups against most legends, and is therefore an excellent pick as your first choice in a format such as this one. I do queue her into the Raptor, and overall, I am very pleased with that, because there are plenty of good griefing cards like Moena, Fern, and Archmage Segredor in this deck that are, let's be honest, quite effective against the giant creatures that Raptor likes to play, and Raptor also has sometimes that armor stacking agenda, and most of Ariane's cards deal direct health damage, so you get to ignore that entirely. Pretty pleased about that, though I did actually have a different class in mind that I was really hoping to queue into Raptor specifically as a hard counter, but cannot complain with this at all, though I can complain about the lack of the griefing cards that I mentioned. They are most effective on Chapter 1, didn't manage to get any, but still a fairly good and efficient Chapter 1, which I'm fairly pleased with, opening up with Haunted Soul there for 5 damage. Worth pointing out that 5 damage is best to do early on, because they might stack armor, and of course you want that damage, which is not health damage, it is ordinary damage to affect their life pool before they get that armor. Next up, Enfeeble, which is a little bit overkill, as it does make the Infernal Mage go from 3 to -2. And a Bunyip would have been fine there, of course. If I had it, I would have much preferred to play the Bunyip. Save that Enfeeble for the larger creature like Jorga Shaman. But overall, pretty pleased I actually get to play these, because as they started falling into my hand, I was like, oh god, I've got these unplayable bricks that can only really be played as a 2-card combo, you know, like Enfeeble, Jorga Shaman, or Infernal Mage, or something like that. They're 2-card combos that specifically can only come out together, which is why you don't often see that on Chapter 1, as people will mulligan those cards away if they do end up in their hand. Finishing the chapter with a Wizard's Mind Bomb. Pretty pleased about that, because really hate going into Chapter 2 without any kind of card draw as Ariane. That makes me very upset, as I'd only have 1 card in my hand, plus the 3 that you get from the draw, but still, certainly a lot less options. Plenty of options here, though, and among those options, some griefing cards. Giant Rat, Moena, and Fern dropping into my hand, which have the potential to be very effective. Now, Fern certainly would have been better on Chapter 1s, because, well, let's be honest, if he played a Void Brawler or a Krasian Warrior, each of those have massively high attack and only 3 health, and presumably my opponent would have 3 attack to kill them with, and then I buff it up by 4, suddenly he has to hit those really big creatures suddenly 3 times to kill them, takes a monstrous amount of damage. That's not going to happen here, as he's now gone past that 3 attack threshold, but still potentially going to be quite good. Worth pointing out, I play them in slot 2 and 3 due to the potential KGP agent that might come out on his slot 1 if he has it, and the Fern before the Moena, because Fern only affects creatures, whereas Moena has, you know, that guaranteed damage on her as well. So it's more important for Fern to actually hit something than it is for Moena, because, you know, Moena's still quite likely to hit something on his slot 3 there, but it doesn't matter quite as much, as it does have that guaranteed damage as well. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't look like they're going to hit anything, and if I had placed it in that slot 1, would have done, you know, quite a lot of work versus the Krasian Warrior, though really, not really, because of the Fishing Trawler, but still I would have played the same, again, in the same circumstances because of the KGP nonsense that I mentioned. But Fishing Trawler coming out quite early from him, actually. Now, it makes sense if I'd played 2 Wind Surges, which certainly I could have done. They're in my deck, I have the gold for them. He would have been quite low, and that Fishing Trawler would have been very good. But actually, you know, didn't heal him for particularly much compared to what they often get. And it's out of the way now, so I'm pretty pleased to see that gone. Admittedly, I'd like to not see any ever, but when playing this matchup, certainly. But that is out the way, and that is worth pointing out. 1 less to deal with here. So, firstly, putting down the Fern. I really want that in slot 2. I want that in slot 2 so much, because he could gain an attack, go up to 5, and then 2 hit a Dagon Sentinel, and Fern would really hurt him there. Or he could gain a weapon and then kill something big like a Jad or something else. Certainly lots of other creatures that are quite big. But it's really awkward, because I want to play Jorga Shaman as well, and the only way I can play Jorga is if I get that Kale weapon to kill the Jorga with. And if I want Fern in slot 2, well, I can't really do that because of the positioning of Kale having to be before the Jorga. And then the Wizard Mind Bomb has to go after the Jorga because I don't have any gold. So in the end, I do think, actually, the Fern will still hit something. Sadly, it really would have worked against that Coloromancer there. He would have used up both the weapon durability fighting that, and would have taken 8 damage from Coloromancer, which is quite a lot. But I thought Fern would still be effective in slot 3, and I wanted to get the Jorger out early for the same reason as the Haunted Soul I mentioned earlier. The guy had already drawn cards in the previous chapter, so it was less likely that he'd be drawing cards this chapter, so the damage would probably stay the same. Actually, he does discard a card with the KGP agent there, so the Jorger did 2 more damage than it otherwise would have. But sadly, KGP agent making up for it by tanking the Fern buff, so that, the Krasian Warrior, sadly. Oh, that was either a mistake or some next level play. Why would you use the weapon durability to kill the KGP agent? Oh, I don't know. Overall, really not too happy with that chapter. Feels like all of my, quite a lot of my good griefing cards are now gone, out of the way, and he's, gotten past that, so he's in a good spot to go in the rest of the game. I've only done 10 damage, and I'm on 1 gold, so at this point, feeling a little bit sketchy, but here we're going in to Chapter 4, and there's that giant rat again taunting me. I even thought about playing it last chapter to destroy his Sergeant Slimetoe's weapon that he would have got in slot 1, but in the end I didn't, because it normally catastrophically misses, and since I'm going first, I have that added flexibility of having the initiative. If he carries a weapon through to the next chapter, I can just simply destroy it. I mean, not a lot of players will do that, but sometimes you kind of have to, and, I wanted that kind of option there since it was safer. In the end, I do go for Enfeeble Interjection Shaman, because I kept track of the number of cards in his hand. He has 10 cards in hand. He'll most likely play 4, maybe 3 this chapter, so we're looking at 12 to 14 damage, which is a lot, honestly. That's why I really want to get that Jorger out early, and I want to put the Archmage Segredor in slot 2, because if he does get another Sergeant Slimetoe's weapon, hopefully, he might do that and try and kill a Jad. That's kind of what I'm aiming for, if not some other creature, but hopefully a Jad, as we haven't yet seen one out of him. So, I've added this up in my head. If it does hit a Jad, that's, 15 damage he's going to take, and then he will have, I believe, 5 health remaining, plus the 4 armor that you get from Jad. That's 9, and the Jorger Shaman will kill him if that happens. That's why I'm playing it before the Haunted Soul, honestly. And, of course, I need the Enfeeble in slot 1 there so that I can actually kill the Jorger with minimal effort. Of course, literally minimal effort. He'll have 0 health. And then the Haunted Soul at the end there for 5 damage. Now, I think it's worth pointing out that that's all of my griefing cards are gone. There are none left in this deck. I only run 1 Archmage Segredor. Otherwise, this is a exact copy of Unforgiven's deck. I respect him very much as a player. I think he's very good and quite likely to go very far in this tournament, as well as Crazy Helm, as well as a number of other individuals. You all know who you are. But I don't like Archmage Segredor too much because it's often, for me, just 1 gold, deal nothing, and Moena just feels a lot safer as it has that guaranteed damage and doesn't really cost any gold. Sadly here, though, we do have a White Wolf, and actually the Archmage is not going to hit him at all, and out comes a Fishing Trawler, and I'm actually, in my mind, I'm like, oh my god, am I going to win? I'm not sure if I'm going to win, because he's drawing 2 cards off White Wolf. I'm like, this is going to be a big Jorger, it's going to be one hell of a big Jorger, but I've kind of lost track of what's going on. Like, I've got adrenaline pumping through me. I'm like, holy shit, I'm not even sure what's going to happen here, and I'm just praying that it will kill him. I know he has a lot of cards in hand, like, definitely a lot, because I saw him draw them all, and boom, 16, and I'm like, gee, 2 more damage. If I played that Haunted Soul instead of the Archmage, I would have killed him, I thought. And sadly, that was not what I actually had on my mind, but worth pointing out, I suppose. And then here for the 5 damage, and basically he's been reset back to full health, and I'm really not in a good spot. I've got 1 more chapter left to kill him, and it just doesn't seem likely. Thankfully, though, he does, for some reason, play the Fight Cauldron, which I really don't think is a very good card at all in the current metagame. Largely because it deals 8 damage to you. Basically, I don't care about his armor, and if I draw well into those Wind Surges we haven't seen yet, and perhaps a Skeletal Mage, I have the potential to win here. Sadly, didn't get them, but had I done that, worth pointing out that 8 damage is very relevant that he did to himself, and because it's a tournament, I do play this to the end, where I otherwise would have just quit. I think here, my thought process is I'll kill that weapon, because maybe he does do something silly, like try to kill a Jad, and maybe, I can come back out of nowhere. And then I thought, man, maybe he randomly runs Jorger for some unknown reason. Obviously, it's so unlikely, but there's no reason not to not play those Bunyips there. I don't need the gold, and it's just I have less cards in my hand now, so there's that. Does take 8 damage from the Coloromancer, but sadly is not going to be enough, as you can see the Ice Nile there, and the rest of the chapter, and I'll speed it up because I just lose. Next up, though, we do have some fairly good games, honestly. And I'm thinking, at this point, I've lost, so what can I do? He's not got Raptor anymore. He's just played that and won with it. He's not allowed to play Raptor anymore. So out of my classes available, which do I play? I can play the classes that are weak to Raptor now, and I do think that, but I in the end decide to go with Ariane again, because she has a good matchup against Linza, Ozan, and, well, it's an Ariane mirror, which does happen to come out, and that's fine. It's a mirror matchup. Is worth pointing out this is not Unforgiven's list exactly. I've slightly changed it, because I wanted Moena in there instead of Archmage Segredor, and I didn't put the 2 Segredors in there for reasons I mentioned previously. But in this particular matchup, it would be definitely very beneficial to have the second copy in there, because obviously a lot of the time Ariane does like to use Enfeeble and Bunyip, and she'll bring those creatures down to 0 attack, and then Archmage Segredor will bring them back up again to 2 attack, which is often quite amusing, as Ariane usually, or often, does have 1 health. Certainly this deck does, as you can see it runs Wind Surge, and you might have seen the Penguin Sheep last game. And if they only have 1 attack and they're fighting this creature that you've then rebuffed, that can sometimes steal games, and I don't have the second copy of that in my deck, so I suppose that is worth pointing out. My mulligan decisions here are keep Kale, because it's batshit OP, even if I go down to 1 attack, because I cast a Wind Surge or a Penguin Sheep, I'll still have 5 attack due to that 4-2 weapon, meaning I can 2-hit an Infernal Mage or a Jorga Shaman, those things that have 10 health, or I can kill 2 different things that have 5 health, even at 1 attack. So I want to keep that, though I do end up thinking, maybe I don't have anything that I actually want to kill with it, but then I'm like, no, it's so good, I should keep it. Moena, I think Moena is best to keep on slot 1 versus Ariane. Fern if I had it as well, which I do end up picking up, and they're a nice card to cast on Chapter 1 against Ariane as early as you can, because Ariane, you know, she likes to decrease the attack of her things. She likes to manipulate the board, and most of the stuff she'll fight, once she starts decreasing stuff's attack, it will have 0 attack, and Fern and Moena, you know, if something has 0 attack, it doesn't actually matter how much you buff their health by, they're still going to kill it eventually. So I want to get these out early, where they're most likely to hit, because it's, as I mentioned, you know, in the previous game, it's unlikely to see Bunyip, Infernal Mage, or Enfeebles on Chapter 1, as people usually get rid of those combos, if they don't have both parts, of course. So let's press play here and see what happens. Fern, gonna hit that Haunted Soul and increase its health from 5 to whatever, 9, there it is. And that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy about that, because, you know, there really aren't very many big creatures in Ariane at all, so getting 4 damage out with the Fern is pretty good. I'm okay with that happening. And the same with Moena. You know, that Scorpion is fairly small, but still going to get 4 extra damage in, as well as that 2 extra damage that she does as well. So there's that, and the rest of the chapter is pretty good as well. I do have a Haunted Soul coming up for 5 damage and 2 gold, a really good card. Excellent damage and gold draw. Compare it to Ali Morrisane. Ali Morrisane gives you 3 gold, and that's considered a good card. Haunted Soul gives you 2, and deals 5 damage. Yes, you do trade off some of your health to deal that damage, but in an aggressive deck such as this one, I'm absolutely okay with doing that. Though admittedly in the Ariane mirror, it would be nice to conserve as much health as possible, yet still maximize my damage. Certainly this opening is not as explosive as it could have been, because I did have to mulligan away that Wind Surge, as I didn't actually have any gold to cast it with, and I was, you know, hoping really to draw card draw. That Skeletal Peon I did manage to pick up, and I was really happy about that. Do draw the Wind Surge again, though. Pretty happy to see that. Really good damage, that card there. And, yeah, but absolutely I'd get rid of the Wind Surge on Chapter 1 if I didn't have any card draw, under the circumstances of certainly not having any gold. So here, he's on 11 life, and I'm thinking I could kill him here. So I need to do that as fast as possible, considering I'm on the same health as him. Since I'm going first, it does give me the initiative here. And I start with the Archmage Segredor, because I'm really hoping that he plays, you know, a creature of his own, and then, you know, I can do maybe, you know, 6 damage to him, something like that, at least 5, hopefully. And I'm like, yes, I've won, but actually I haven't, or I have, I'm not sure at this point. I thought this was going to deal 5 to him with the Skeletal Peon, and then the Wind Surge would deal 6, and that would be lethal, but he only takes 4, leaving him at 1 health, and then he has that Lady Heffen there, and I'm like, oh no, he's going to heal, but of course I'm going first, and then I'm like, oh yeah, actually that 3 damage will finish him off there. So his deck, not quite as aggressive as mine if it is running the heals in there, but this one certainly did the job here, picking up the win and bringing the series back up to 1-1. Pretty happy about that. So, the decider, match point coming up, and I think to myself, okay, I can't play Ariane anymore, and he can't play Raptor. What do I play? Well, I anticipated him probably queuing up with Ariane again, but quite possibly he could go with Ozan as well. You know, Linza is a consideration. I suppose, but I thought one of those two would be more likely. I think Ariane and Ozan are very popular at the moment, so I pick a deck called Tinza 1, which stands for Tank Linza. This deck is actually not very good at all versus Raptor, but he can't play Raptor, so I know that. I'm fairly comfortable going in with this. This is my own deck. I think it is quite well built, and it is very, very good against Ariane specifically, which I was hoping he'd queue up again. I actually made this specifically to counter the Ariane nonsense aggressive stuff that I was seeing on ladder. This deck specifically is good against Ariane because it runs a lot of health gain in the form of 2 Daganov Fledglings, 2 Drunken Dwarfs, 2 Fishing Trawlers, it has 2 Repurposes, lots of health gain in there to make it very unlikely I die to those Ozans and to those Arianes. And of course that Dr. Fenkenstrain as well, which is an odd choice, but actually weirdly good against Ariane because, you know, for the same reasons as the Archmage Segredors that I mentioned earlier. If they enfeeble or bunyip down their creatures to 0 attack, Dr. Fenkenstrain effectively resets that, and Ariane likes to bring her health down to 1 attack a lot of the time. So Dr. Fenkenstrain can just randomly steal games if you hit, you know, they have 1 attack and you hit an Infernal Mage and bring it back up to 3, because then they end up taking 27 damage, and you can win games off that. Doesn't happen often, but even if it doesn't happen, it's a good include in the deck, because this deck does try to win with a 3-card combo, in the sense of casting a Tetsu Katana into Kalgur into Pulverize, or Tetsu Katana into Double Pulverize, or something like that. So the 3 gold drop on the Fenkenstrain is really good, and you know, I could play Fenkenstrain here. I'm going first, so you know, it would hit his final slot creature, which could be, you know, that thing he'd bunyip or enfeeble down. But again, it's Chapter 1, and as I've mentioned previously, you're unlikely to see those sort of combo-ish cards come out because they'll usually mulligan them away. Here, going to open with a White Wolf for 2 damage to me, sadly, but I do get that 2 gold draw, which is very nice, and that 2 card draw as well. Very, very efficient card, and I'm okay with taking 5 damage to make that happen. But that's the only White Wolf in my deck, because, you know, I don't want to take too much damage, but I do want the card draw. The other card draw in this deck, I believe, is 2 Krasian Warriors, which, you know, I can get a 1/1 weapon quite easily off quite a lot of creatures, so it's not really a problem killing that. And, of course, the Fremennik Crafter as well, which is a monstrously good card. Draws 4 cards, and all you have to do is spend a weapon, and, of course, there are plenty of weapons in here, so not too bad, currently on 21 life. Going to take 5 more damage there, but I do have a Fishing Trawler in hand now, so I'm not too afraid of that at all, and I feel like I'm in a good spot to go into the rest of the game. Yep. And Ariane skips her last slot here, which is actually something I'm really pleased with, as it means that I'm going to be taking less damage. And yes, I skipped my last slot as well, but I'm okay with doing that. My deck runs a lot of combo pieces. There are 6 combo pieces in total in this deck, and oftentimes you'll draw those bricks, which really won't do a lot, and you will skip slots with this deck. But that's okay, because really you're just hoping to get far enough into the game for that combo to be realized, and then combo them out, and whilst you're getting there, you just keep your health and armor high, and really they can't really touch you very well. As you can see, Goblin Raider, they're going to get me 2 armor and a 1/3 weapon, very, very efficient, into that Daganov Fledgling for the 6 life gain. I do move it up a slot because I want to play the Dr. Fenkenstrain in slot 1. I do think about that combo of, you know, him playing that, perhaps, Infernal Mage. And then I chuck down a Repurpose at the end there for 10 armor. Can't complain with 10 armor. Yes, it's not always that effective against Ariane, but I can still use that armor to face tank the creatures that I would be fighting, such as this one. And in this case, I do hit that Infernal Mage, bringing it up to 6, and he's going to bunyip it down to 3 again. It's not going to be as effective as it usually is, as he still has 2 attack, but if he had 1 attack, he'd be taking 27 damage here, and, you know, as I mentioned, that can steal games, but still going to take a lot of damage he is from that. And actually, worth pointing out, his Archmage Segredor increased my Goblin Raider up to 4 health, and the 3 attack that I gave my own Goblin Raider actually mattered when I was hoping that I'd kill that Goblin Raider. I was anticipating killing that in a single hit, and the extra attack I gave it from the Dr. Fenkenstrain would, you know, not be relevant, would be completely not a thing. But yeah, I take 7 damage as a result of that, and that's quite scary. But Daganov Fledgling does heal me for 6, and therefore Infernal Mage does not end up killing me. And then I repurpose for 10 armor, and that 3 damage he's dealing to me with the Scorpion there, that's not health damage, so that's going to be on the armor there. And I didn't also play the Trawler, which I do have, because I knew, you know, I could play it at the start of the next chapter. Because I'm going first, I have that initiative to do that. Do I have Trawler? don't I have Trawler? I absolutely have Trawler, but that is probably the question he's asking. Is there a Trawler? Because all he needs is one spell that deals 6 damage, so a Wind Surge, and he has the gold for that, and he wins the game. So he has to dodge Trawler, and he wins the game. But I do have Trawler, just like how he had Trawler in the previous games, and thank God it's being changed. This card is really stupid, because, let's be honest, it is quite easy to manipulate your health total. And if you're interested in hearing me discuss cards, do go check out the other videos on this YouTube channel, particularly the top 15 cards. I spent a very long time making that video. I think it's very well edited, and if you're enjoying this commentary so far, I'm sure you'll enjoy checking that out. So, yeah, quite a nice little cheeky plug to the videos. Hoping to grow a big channel. There's a Wind Surge, but there's also a Trawler, so he's probably not too happy to see that. But still, 6 damage to me. It's, it's damage, and he's still able to stack that up. It is the start of Chapter 3. He's got 2 more chapters left. I'll have to see what happens. Ice Warrior, though, going to be tanking 3 damage there, but that's on my armor, which is fine. That's what the armor's for. And I get that 1/4 weapon and the 2 gold. Next up, he has a Wind Surge into 3 damage, into a Ring of Charos, which will let him cast that Divine Storm for cheap. Now, it's worth pointing out that all that damage I managed to get on him in the previous chapter is actually completely irrelevant, but sometimes the point of it existing in the deck, that Dr. Fenkenstrain, is that it will sometimes kill them, and, it didn't do that here, but sometimes it does do that. And yes, I know the damage is no longer on him because I fishing trawled, but still, it's it's in the deck for that reason. And regardless, as I mentioned, it's good gold draw there. But now, yes, I did lose all my armor and took 6 damage. So nicely placed Wind Surge. And here, I believe there's the combo. I have a Tetsu Katana and 2 Pulverizers, 21 life, and I'm thinking, well, I could do it. That will kill him, or will it? I make a catastrophic mistake here. Like, I was convinced that Tetsu Katana into Pulverize would kill him. I don't know why, but I somehow added it up as 30 damage. Tetsu Katana will deal 16 with the Pulverize, and then the second Pulverize, of course, the Katana goes down by 3 attack. I was well aware of that, so instead of being an 8 attack weapon, it would be a... what would it be? It would be a 5 attack weapon, so the second Pulverize would be 10 damage. That's only 26 damage. That would not kill him. There was no reason for me to do that. I misplayed. I shouldn't have done it. I was convinced it would kill him, but it was a misplay. It wasn't going to do it. So first I had a Cowfight Worker in that slot, and instead I swapped it for a Varrock Museum because, I take damage killing the Cowfight Worker, but I wouldn't with the Varrock Museum. I still get that 2 gold, even though it didn't display. That is a bug in the game. And if only the Fenkenstrain was on that particular one, would have done a lot of damage. But yeah, get the Tetsu Katana. Normally you would get the Tetsu Katana into Kalgur, which is a giant demon that increases your weapon by 2 and lets you strike them, so it goes up to 10 attack weapon, and then the Pulverize deals 20 for the final 20 damage. It's a 30 damage combo, but this is not a 30 damage combo. Catastrophic mistake, because now I don't have any gold, because I spent it all in this Katana. There was no reason for me to do that. I had the second fishing trawler in hand. I had the Katana in hand. I could get enough gold easily just to put it in the final slot. He probably doesn't have weapon removal. Even if he does, it's probably a giant rat, and I'd still have 1 extra strike. And it doesn't matter. Even if I lost the weapon, I have 2 attack. He has 1. He's gone down. This was so dumb. And this could have been the end of my tournament life. And I'm actually quite embarrassed to put this up, because I know that it wasn't a 30 damage combo. I know that, but somehow I thought it was in the game. And here, I'm holding a 5/3 weapon, which is effectively a Dragon Longsword, and I think, well, it's better than Kale. There's no point playing Kale. I can't play any creatures, because it would replace the, the stats I'd use the durability up, sorry. I could have played Fishing Trawler. I know it wouldn't have worked. I don't have the gold for that. But if he, it would play around Jorga Shaman, it'd be 2 less damage to me. But then I probably did think of that and just thought, well, I'm still going to die even if he has Jorga Shaman, because look at the amount of cards in my hand. Maybe he gives me 3 gold with the Xian Tournament, or whatever it's called, that card that grants them 1 attack but gives you 3 gold. Very unlikely in a deck like his, but possible, and that extra health would have been far more beneficial to me, considering I'm holding a 5/3 weapon and have twice as much attack as he does. But in the end, I just don't play any cards and just pray to the Lord that I would not die. Thankfully, he comes out with a, he's on 2 HP, so it's very unlikely he could deal any damage outside of, like Wind Surge and, which he's already played 1 of, and the other wind thing, which he's already played 2 of. So actually, no. And then, yeah, he couldn't really play any creatures because he'd take damage and die as he was only on 2 HP. But 5 damage coming in here does put me down to 4 life. But because I'm well, no, it's not because I'm striking twice. But you know, even if I was striking, even if I was going second, I'd still win here. I'd be able to kill him in 2 hits. But a very close game, and one that did not need to be that close. I had the second trawler. I could have played it very safe. But that is the end of the game. I do progress through to the Ruby brackets, and that'll be a lot of fun. So do like this video if you enjoyed it. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again next time.